The divine feminine is a concept that I greatly connect with. That we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that everything in our universe is balanced in between those two things. And we can't have too much of the masculine, and we can't have too much of the feminine. And when we do, the world and the universe as a whole is totally out of balance. And in terms of yoga, we often talk about Shakti, which is the feminine energy, um, and she is sort of the the goddess, the encapsulation of Mother Nature, of this beautiful female energy, and nothing can exist without her. And the parts of the divine feminine that make it so wonderful to connect with is that it's not this peaceful, chilled out, women are all, we're so relaxed and, just into our emotions, etc. Shakti can be fierce. She can be badass. The feminine is not just something that sits there and just supports the masculine. If you think about everything in nature and in the world that is the divine feminine, childbearing, for crying out loud, making a baby and birthing that baby is an act of just pure magnificence. But it can also be, it's strong and it's powerful and it's painful, and it's not just this lovely softness that we think about. So, we can be all sorts of qualities in the divine feminine. So we can be intuitive and heart-centered. There's compassion to the divine feminine. The divine feminine is wise, accepting, forgiving, very reflective. Divine feminine is where the creative elements come in, and we talk about that we as women are creatrixes, and that doesn't have to mean childbearing. We are so creative in so many ways. Children is just one way that we go through our creative energy. But we create art, we create life in terms of, building a home and building businesses and creating communities. And when we're connected to the divine feminine, we are very, very good at that. We can be sensual, and very, very, very tapped into our sexuality, which historically has meant that perhaps women have been persecuted for being tapped into that, sensuality. And when we think back to, the burning of witches, what were all the things they were guilty of? Being sensual, being wise, having innate knowledge of nature and of the body. And unfortunately the very disconnected masculine, that toxic masculinity, had overtaken, and for many, many, many years, and still now, that masculine has pushed down the divine feminine. And this is where the world becomes totally unbalanced, where there is more war, there is more fighting, climate change, because we're not listening to the divine feminine. We're not listening to Mother Nature. I will get off my soapbox. So the divine feminine can mean so many different things to different people. For me, it means all of those things, means connecting to all of those elements that the divine feminine represents. And I am somebody who very much leans towards the feminine. And perhaps in earlier years, I was more connected to the masculine, whether that was because of the world that I was brought up in and the family that I was brought up in, or that just when I was younger, that's what I needed. But now, as I get older and I move into the next stage of my life, connecting with that divine feminine is extremely important to me. And I wish I'd connected earlier in my life, which is why I now try to share it with people as early as I possibly can. So how can you connect with the divine feminine? So, you know, we have all sorts of visions when we talk about women's circles and this divine feminine of women dancing naked around the tree. I always make the joke when I talk about it, is that, you know, we don't actually dance naked around trees. There are groups that do that, and I'd be well up for it if anybody would like to join me, but not something you have to do. But what can you do? What realistically can you do in your life to just feel a little bit more connected? So you can reclaim some rest. You know, we live in a very masculine world where things are pushed and pushed and pushed. And it's that very masculine trait of, we need to get stuff done. We need to get more done. We need to earn more money. We need to be doing more work. As women, we are cyclic, whether we cycle anymore or not, whether we have a womb anymore or not, we are cyclic in nature. So we have times to do, and we have times to rest. And tapping into that can be one of the best things you do in your life. And I will talk more about this later on when with your cycles. Embracing your sexuality, not a subject that people are too comfortable about, but just embracing that you are a sexual being, whether you're attracted to men, women, both, all. Trying to feel sexy and realizing you don't need other people to feel sexy. You know, wearing what you want to make you feel sexy, not worrying about what other people think. You know, taking long, luxurious baths, being with yourself, you know, feeling sexual, massaging yourself, touching yourself. You know, this doesn't have to get into like naughty territory that people don't want to talk about. But, you know, obviously, if you do want to enjoy yourself on your own, feel free. But it's not just about that. It is about pleasing yourself and feeling that sensuality in your body. Journaling is a huge thing for the divine feminine. If we can become more reflective and we can tap into that reflective wisdom that we have, you will be amazed at what you can release. The knowledge that we have passed down to us through the generations is built in. We have it. We have all this beautiful knowledge about how we can connect to the earth and all the energy around us. And if you journal and you track your moods and track your cycle, this can be really fantastic. And as you write and you do free writing or even pre-drawing, you can really start to bring up thoughts and ideas that you have maybe never even thought about before. Practicing self-love, and I like to call it radical self-love, to, you know, to the extent that you can stand in front of the mirror and just say, I am amazing. I am absolutely brilliant. And it's hard, it's not easy, it takes time, and sometimes you'll fall, and sometimes you will sit into that, you know, that negative chat to yourself. We all do it, but just giving yourself some love and finding what your love language is to yourself. You know, for me, my love language is having lovely long hot baths, doing yoga, doing breathing, doing meditation, going for a run or a walk in the countryside. And giving those things to myself is a practice of self-love, but also building boundaries and being able to say no to people and being able to detach myself from people that zap my energy. That has been a huge turning point for me, being able to just go, no, that is not okay. That is a radical practice of self-love. So we can do that on a regular basis. Incorporate some more yin energy into your space. So when we think about the yin and the yang, the strong and the soft, we live in a very masculine world. Like I said, we push a lot. We are told to work more and not to rest. But adding in a little bit of that yin energy, so like I said, resting more, but also finding, you know, comfort in your home. Create spaces where you can just be gentle with yourself, somewhere you can sit and read, doing some yin yoga, which is extremely still yoga, and just sitting in your space. And yin is not necessarily restful, but it is really transformative if you get into it. But that is so important, just to be able to inject that energy into your life, and it will help cultivate that divine feminine in you. Speaking of divine feminine, cats are always attracted to it. So on that note, that's a few things that you can do to connect to your divine feminine. Get out of you. There will be more tips coming up. My last tip would be to, if you haven't already, get yourself to a woman's circle. It doesn't necessarily have to be with me, but one, that's closer to you. A woman's circle is a wonderful place to just be with similar energy, to be nourished. And if you feel like you're not a girly girl, or you've never been comfortable in the presence of other women, I would ask you, where does that come from? And often there are these fake stories that have been created by society, that women do not support other women, and that we attack each other, and we're bitchy, and that we have to fight each other to get a place at the table. And I think that's absolute rubbish. And from the past sort of 2 years, which has been extremely hard for all of us, I have found such comfort and such strength in the presence of other women I never would have believed possible. And those stories about women tearing each other down are total stories. That is all they are. We don't need to fight each other for a space at the table. We just need to create a new table. And I'm paraphrasing from somewhere, and I actually can't remember where I'm paraphrasing from, but we can create that new space for us. We do not need to compete with each other. And these women's circles show me every single time how the divine feminine energy connects us all and allows us to be stronger together. So that is my take on the divine feminine. I hope you've enjoyed it. Namaste.